The term identity comes from identifying oneself with something, any concept, any aspect regarding life. Now, when it comes to people, there is a simple quote that says, if you don't know who you are, someone else will tell you. But if someone else tells you who or what you are you sure they will tell you the truth? See, when one comes in this world, the language that they speak when they are, well, a child, or later on an adult, an adolescent, adult, old person, the language that they learn, they didn't come with it. They weren't born with the knowledge of it, or maybe they had some knowledge of it, but, probably karmically speaking from other previous lifetimes, but still, you needed to hear people around you in order to activate it. So obviously, there is this aspect that whatever we embrace in this life, let's not take into account other lives, but whatever we embrace in this life is something that we accumulate, we acquire. In our life, we acquire knowledge, we acquire wisdom, we acquire all sorts of data that we make use of for ourselves. If it is something that truly helps us, well, it becomes knowledge. When knowledge is used even more, it becomes wisdom. But at the same time, the point is, a human being, if they don't have enough esteem that they are, capable of living life without needing to believe in an external source, they will create an external source. And then they will identify, unfortunately, sooner or later, with kind of almost anything. Be it fictitious characters from movies, books, whatever, or, well, special phenomena like ghosts. Some people call themselves ghosts because, well, they've not been touched enough by life, so they prefer calling themselves something that is not represented much by life. So identity is something that we create out of our own necessity for validation, for attention, and at the same time, when you identify yourself with something which you call as stronger, you start to building expectations that that thing actually makes your life better, right? That thing actually improves your life or helps you solve some things. But at the same time, people are missing the fact that, hey, you've actually created that and you're creating your own misery through that. When it comes to identity, well, identity is of multiple ways because people like classifying things because the mind is a slave of classification. The mind is a slave of meaning. If something doesn't have meaning, the mind doesn't like it. So, for example, sexual identity. Many people identify themselves too much with being a girl or being a guy. Nothing wrong necessarily about that because obviously you'll be living in that physical body until, well, death do you apart. But the point is, there comes one little problem. In a sick society, you will be given all sorts of ideas. So the point is, people don't only identify themselves with a certain gender, but at the same time, they identify with a certain expectation that that gender should have. That's how you get a lot of frustrated people, dissatisfied in their physical body that it is not the same as, a sick society would imply. But why would you want to please a sick society? In the end, if you want to become one with a sick society, well, that doesn't feel like a good measure of health. Now, when it comes to, for example, sexual identity, well, the point is you're either a male, you're either a female. In a sick society, obviously gender doesn't matter, because in a sick society, slavery is always the only thing, and manipulation is the only evolution. Manipulation is the only thing that evolves, because manipulation serves the purpose of control, and you cannot control the masses if you don't have good enough manipulation. So the point about this is the only evolution a sick society has is in its manipulative capacity. Because when people start realizing that it's nothing else but a sick show, well, the point is mass media is nothing else than a show. After all, they also call those, you know, television broadcasts as, talk shows. They're not a wisdom show, they're not anything else. They're just a TV presentation in which some people speak. They don't necessarily know much more truth than you. But the point is, they have a contract and they have to speak what's signed in the contract. So in a sick society, people identify with all sorts of things. A sexual identity, well, in a sick society you're nothing else than a battery. And you're gonna be used as a battery until depleted, and then you're gonna be kicked, and, well, another battery will be simply bought and used. The same way you're using your own objects, the things that you purchase, it's the same thing humans are being used in society, with all their personal data being constantly stolen and used to serve different agendas, so that people are hooked and, used for nothing else than, stripping them of their money. Well, the point is, it doesn't matter what identity you have, because in a sick society, your only identity is as a slave. You can call yourself Superman, Superwoman, whatever hero name, whatever failure name you want. You're still nothing else than useless in a sick society, because a sick society doesn't need anything else than slaves. It just wants people who are compliant, and that's it. And, well, that's the point of a sick society. And if you want to break this idea, well, you have to simply denaturalize everything. Like when you have people say, well, you can dress up like anyone, you can be anything that you want, or anyone like that you want. See, when you break the morals of a society, that is again another pillar of a sick society, because a sick society is all about control. And you always control people when you give them the so-called ultimate freedom. Why? Because when people believe that they can do literally anything, they will be too distracted to experience the things they weren't allowed to do. And when they are distracted, well, different agendas can go on unhindered because they're no longer paying attention, right? And obviously everything that you do is being monitored and being used as a tool to shape, other people into the deviants of tomorrow. Because by studying the patterns of each and every day, they will know how to make, other people do the same things. Because, as I said, the only thing that improves in a sick society is its capacity to manipulate. Because manipulation is the only thing that a sick person can do. Why manipulation? Because you need to create a prison, right? The prison of the mind, because it is much worse to be a prisoner of the mind than a prisoner in a jail, or, a prisoner in chains. That one can be freed from those sooner or later, one way or another. But being a slave of the mind is far harder, because it's much easier to fool someone than to convince them that they have been fooled, especially when the manipulation techniques are pretty advanced. So when it comes to any sort of identity, see, the point is, the only purpose of an identity is to be nothing else than a comfort zone. Because you take some comfort in thinking that you are something, right? Because when you're surrounded by people who tell you that you're nothing, finally feeling that you're something is, in a way, a feeling of achievement. Even if a false sense of achievement in many ways, but ultimately that is nothing else than, well, a feeling of achievement. But a feeling is just an emotion, it's not necessarily something real. You can feel a lot of emotions, but you can draw upon other people's emotions as well. You may meet a lot of sick people, you may meet a lot of broken goods type of people, and you may absorb a lot of their pains. And sooner or later you may also feel those pains. But those pains may not necessarily be your pains as well. But just because you've absorbed a bit of those and you are thinking about them, you've created a cyclical nature to those sufferings, and then you're thinking about those again and again and again, right? You're thinking about those more and more. So when that happens, well, you're creating your own pains and you're even supporting those. They are becoming your identity. So an identity is nothing else than a trap. Make sure that you use your identity as something that supports you. Don't become a slave of your identity, because ultimately, when you leave this physical body, you will leave your discernment and your memories and your physical experiences in here. You may carry the outcome of all of your actions in the form of your karma, but the point is, everything that you have acquired in this life, you leave it here. Obviously, except your karma. But the point is, all the knowledge that you have acquired will be dying here with the brain that you've had in your physical body. So all this being said, hopefully this video was introspective enough. You are appreciated. Take care. Ferenc on board signing out.